Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Gridiron Review. Alongside Bill Wagner, I'm Pete Medhurst. It's great to have you with us. And Bill, we're getting to October. And of course, when we get to October, it's when people start to lose their minds. Everybody starts to get really excited because, especially with youth football, 7U's already come to an end. 14U Central, in terms of the regular season, has come to an end. So we're getting set for playoffs now toward the end of the month, headed for the championship weekend, which is the weekend of November the 9th. Had a chance to get out and see some action this week. We've got some great highlights for you coming from the big clash between Brooklyn Park and Old Mill, or Brooklyn Park and Powell rather, in 10 and under action. We had a big upset in 10 and under, UQA upsetting Cape. 14 under American, Cape upset Brooklyn Park, and now the standings as a result of that, Old Mill and Severn are tied in the 14 American at 6-1. Brooklyn Park is 5-2, Severna Park 4-3, Gork is 4-3, the Bucks are 4-3. Cape gets to 3-4, so we got a lot of stuff to sort out over the last couple of weeks of the regular season in 14 American. Going to be some exciting times there. Had a chance to get over to South Bowie. Big clash for second place in the 7U standings between Brooklyn Park and South Bowie. And my man Brandon Johnson put on a show for Brooklyn Park for Coach CJ Foe as they win it by a score of 13-0. Second half kickoff. They take the ball, two plays, 55 yards. Brandon puts it in the end zone for Brooklyn Park, and they get a big win, which puts them in second place. And the key there is that means more than likely they would not have to face first place SAC until the championship game. Right. And I'm looking forward to the rematch of those two teams. They played a great game the first time around that really swung on a fumble down as Brooklyn Park was taking it in. Would have been an 18-6 lead. Instead, it gave Severn some momentum, and they turned it around right there. And Severn went on to a 26-12 victory. Seminoles went undefeated through the regular season in 7U. Brooklyn Park undefeated at the 8U level. So we got a lot of great races going on right now. You can go to aacounty.org and obviously go to the Rex and Parks page, team schedules, and find out where the rest of the regular season action is coming up. We thank the folks for sending in the highlights of Brooklyn Park and Powell to us this week.
Brandon Johnson, we've had him. He's run wild on AAYFA Championship Day before. He's been around and been a good player.
Well, there's probably been multiple kids named Brandon Johnson.
Right. Well, I think this Brandon Johnson is the son of Darren Batman Johnson that played football and basketball at Spalding and is coaching the Brooklyn Park organization. I'm pretty sure that's the case. We also got to give a shout out to Dylan Gilmore. He's the quarterback for the Brooklyn Park 10U team. He goes by the name of Young Dylan. He's a rapper, very talented, Annapolis resident, and he just appeared on the Ellen DeGeneres show.
I saw the appearance.
And now he's getting his own Nickelodeon show.
I saw that. Tyler Perry came out to make the announcement with him, and you know, and I tweeted it at the time when I saw that I was watching the episode when it aired. We can't do enough to promote kids that are doing things like this, because here's a young man that's obviously talented off the field, but he's not taking away from his activities on the field. He's still taking the time to enjoy his childhood with his friends and doing those things in the community. And I think sometimes when you start to see the stardom and things of that nature, I'm just glad to see it because I like to see kids that are not afraid to continue to socialize with the kids in their community and still enjoy the whole situation.
Being a kid, yeah. It's go to school, play youth football, and you can still be a talented rapper who appears on the Ellen show.
No doubt about that. Hey, Dylan, I can rhyme, so I will come on your Nickelodeon show with you. I'll even write some rhymes for you. You can perform them, but I'll come up with a cool rhyme.
I've heard Pete rap. He's not bad.
I can come up with some rhymes for football, and we'll get those out there. Now, high school-wise, got to talk about the alma mater for a minute because it's been lean times down there in Harwood at Wingate Field. Beautiful Harwood Road as Southern this week got their first win since 2016. 31-game losing streak is over. They beat Centennial by a score of 21-0. And obviously, you know, when you change coaches and they are coming from outside the community, because you know, Coach was at Thomas Stone before he came here, so it's not as if he was in the county and really fully grasped the situation at Southern, where the numbers just weren't there in terms of total talent. The JV team last year played with literally like 15 guys, but the numbers are up. I'm starting to see some of the kids from the basketball team who are good athletes playing on the football team. Russell Dandridge is playing terrific at wide receiver for them.
Had a big interception in the Centennial
Malik Bryan out there as well. Saw Jake Coverman, Jake Coverman's Division I basketball talent. He's only going to be a junior
Well, and he's got to be able to help a football team at Southern when they need athletes. And I exchanged some emails with Coach Daniel Ripple this morning, and he's very, very happy. It's great for these kids to see some success. He said they've worked so hard, they have not wavered at all. It's tough when you lose, and sometimes kids might want to quit. He says not one kid has quit the program. A big thing happened before the season even started. There was concern about whether Southern could field a full JV, and he said it was an entire South County effort to get a 30-man JV, and he says they have 30 men for both varsity and JV, and that in itself is a victory at a small school like Southern of Harwood.
Well, no doubt about it. I mean, Southern's almost small enough to be a 1A. I mean, they're going in the opposite direction in terms of school population. And of course, the county's got so many 4As, and what they've done, the 4As don't have to play Southern as much now because it hurts them in terms of the playoff point chase. And now Southern's able to go out and schedule some teams more of their classification and size, like Manchester Valley, like a Centennial. And let's face it, if there are two programs that need each other, it's Centennial and Southern. Centennial a couple of years ago didn't even have a varsity program, and last year they brought it back at the varsity level, didn't score a point the entire season. This year, Centennial was close against Aberdeen, only lost by a score of 12-6. So you got to take baby steps in terms of rebuilding the program, and if there's two schools that probably need each other right now, it's Southern and Centennial. And this was a competitive game until deep into the fourth quarter the other day, so it bodes well for Centennial in terms of trying to rebuild because they haven't won since 2016 either.
Right.
And for Coach Ripple, it's that first win that can at least get some of that, that bond going in the community and belief in the coaching staff, because I think that's part of the issue there is you want to believe that there's some upward growth, but the more players you have, then the better chance you have of getting good athletes to come out there for the program.
Well, and like you mentioned, Southern numbers are the key. They don't have a lot of depth, but they do have some talented players. You mentioned Mr. Dandridge. He goes two ways, had a big interception in that ball game. You played with the German kid's father.
Yeah, and, Billy German.
So, I mean, they've got some talented young players, and it's just, he got a handful of guys at his quarterback. I think he feels real good about his quarterback.
Quattlebaum played pretty well the other night, threw a pass to Russell Dandridge. Anthony Hopkins had a touchdown run. So, you mentioned Jackson German. So, I mean, it's a very talented group in terms of the younger ages. A lot of those kids are juniors and sophomores.
That's good.
So that's the key.
Well for the future.
That's the key in terms of building for the future. You mentioned a couple weeks ago, Austin Sly coming back from injury. Boy, did he look terrific this past week in a 56-20 win over Chesapeake High.
Yeah, and Chesapeake's just not the same this year. They've had a couple really, really good seasons, and I picked Chesapeake to win this game. I was at Chesapeake, and I thought Chesapeake would rise up, but they're just not quite what they were the last two seasons. But that's a huge victory for Arundel, and getting Sly back is just crucial. You got to have. I mean, he's an all-county caliber quarterback. So
20
great
of 29.
win for Arundel.
Yeah, 20 of 29, 259, 3 scores. But as has often been the case, and we talked about this last year with them, when things are going good for Arundel, they not only have the game going through the air, but on the ground. Right. Jordan Andrews ran for 162 yards in this game. And that's when that Arundel offense is really potently going forward, when they're getting production from both the pass and the run. Vic Lasorti and Colin Rimmel each rushed for a touchdown. Tyler Clark had a 50-yard touchdown as well in this contest as Arundel wins it by a score of 56-20. One of the better comebacks on the weekend, too, belonged to Annapolis.
Yeah.
As they came from behind, North County got off to a good start in that game. Has played well this year, but Nick Goodmalloy's club fought back, won a tough game here by a count of 26-21, and a key game because of the expanded playoff this year. That's a key game in 4A for both of those teams in terms of the results. Good win for Annapolis.
That's a huge win for Annapolis. I mean, North County's been playing really well. This is a resurgent North County team, and I think on paper, a lot of people in the prediction corner, everybody on the staff and the guests picked North County, and Annapolis showed up and played really well. I understand that Annapolis got some players back from ineligibility, and that helped. So they've gotten bolstered with some new talent, some influx of talent. But that's a great win for Annapolis. Hopefully they can build off it. Head coach Nick Goodmalloy always does a great job. That was a little bit of a surprising result, though.
Eric Lindsay ran for 159 yards in the contest. Cameron Tyson had a touchdown as well. Anthony Bedell ran for 218 yards in the loss for North County. Both teams now sit at 2-3. Northeast improved to 3-2. They 41-19 win over Eastern Tech. Riley Pitt threw for 204 yards, rushed for 81 yards and a touchdown, and Miles Macon ran for 95 yards and a score as the Eagles pick up the win. And clearly so far, Bill, the class of the county, without question, has been South River.
They just keep rolling along.
They beat Glen Burnie 63-0. David Faust threw for 211 yards and 3 scores. Delvin Johnson ran for 98 and a pair of scores. Sean Leonard had 111 yards receiving. South River now sitting at 5-0. And the thing that you look for, they've already had a couple of good wins. When you don't play someone that's playing as well, Glen Burnie's struggling a little bit after their season opening win over Southern. You see if there's a lack of focus, and there was none from South River as they beat the Gophers.
They've been focused all season. That 1-2 combination, the quarterback who can spread the ball around, and Faust and Johnson as the running back have both put up huge numbers, and they've got the 1-2 combination going. It's hard to stop that offense.
Meanwhile, Meade beat Broadneck 14-10.
That was a surprise.
Yeah, TJ Spate scored on a 64-yard screenplay. Andre Jacobs scored on a run off of a botched field goal attempt to lead the Mustangs in that one. Josh Ehrlich hitting Kyle Pierce on a big pass play for Broadneck in that contest, but Meade wins it for Coach Mike Francis by a score of 14-10.
Huge win for Meade, and I'll have to go back and check the archives, but I think Broadneck now has more losses than it's had in 5 or 6 seasons. It's been a while.
Certainly over the last couple of years combined.
Yeah. I mean, they had 2 or 3 undefeated seasons there, so this is a little bit of a surprise. Broadneck, now that's a 3rd loss, I believe.
Now remember, it was, they're 2-3. Remember, the sky was falling after Douglas, who's a Class 2A state championship contender, beat Old Mill 30-0 in week 1.
They wanted Chad McCormick out.
Well, that would be foolish. Just like, replacing the coach in the middle of the season is not the answer. Well, since then, Old Mill's won 4 straight games. All's right now
and
over
gotten
Millersville.
better and better.
They get better and better each week.
Game.
Defense has been good. Trey Thomas returned an interception, 25 yards for a touchdown. Miles Fulton scored on a 1-yard run. Jackson Burleson hit a 35-yard field goal in this game for Old Mill as well, as they shut out Severna Park by a score of 16-0. So there, when you start to get some angst about what's going on, just because you lose one game, and I know that's a tough community. Old Mill expects to win.
They're
every
used to
game.
winning.
But Douglas is a powerhouse, man, and there's no shame in losing to them. There's no shame in getting better as the season goes along. The key, you want to be playing well in November. Right. That's the most important thing.
That Douglas game will help Old Mill down the road.
No doubt about that. Meanwhile, in the privates, St. Mary's, look, we've talked about Alex Wicks a lot so far this year. It stood to pass that at some point, somebody was going to stuff that box and try to stop Wicks and dare St. Mary's to go to the air. Well, guess what? They did that.
Jason Golini.
Yeah, and Golini had a great game through the air. Kat Fomenik had it in the Capitol this week, and a big 28-0 win over Concordia Prep. And that's, to me, what shows about where St. Mary's is right now for Coach Jason Padroni is, look, Wicks is the guy that stirs the drink. But this shows people that if you stop Wicks from running for 150 yards a game like he's been doing, they can still move the football. It's a big win for them, big defensive game as well as they shut out Concordia. Huge showdown coming up this week with Pilati in the B Conference.
Right, this could be the game of the year for the B Conference. You could see these teams meeting again in the championship game. Wicks still had 82 yards rushing. Right. They didn't completely stop him. And Wicks is now over 1,000 yards rushing.
Has 18 touchdowns.
18 touchdowns, hello. He is having a heck of a year. We're not even, midway through the season? I mean, come on.
Stays healthy. I think I'm going to nominate him for the Rhodes Trophy.
He's looking good.
Certainly getting in the conversation. That's for sure. Spalding continues to play a bunch of people, man.
Right.
I mean, they're playing people all over the place.
I don't know much about Life Christian, but they must be legit because Spalding is a good darn team that has beaten teams all over the country. Bishop Moore down in Florida, and they play good counsel. So Life Christian must be pretty legit.
And not only that, I mean, when you're playing people like this, it's not a league game. You don't really have anything to lose. You're just playing good people to get your players better. They scored a touchdown and went for 2, didn't get it. Yeah. They could have easily kicked the extra point and potentially sent the game to overtime as well. But Austin Tudis threw for 250 yards and 2 scores, and Jayon Venerable carried the ball 23 times for 107 yards and a score in that one as well. Another tough week for Severn. The Admirals just not able to generate a lot of offense right now in any of their games. And right now, a little challenged offensively in the sport of football. You can't win. You got to be able to put up some points against a lot of people.
Same for Annapolis Area Christian School, got shut out by St. Paul's. So Severn and ACS are both struggling this year. It's been tough.
Coming up, speaking of not struggling, Navy beat Air Force in dramatic fashion. Also, Maryland took on a Rutgers team that had a high school coach for the head coach. The quarterback left saying, all right, I've only played 4 games. I can redshirt. The running back said, yep, I can redshirt too. I'm out of here. And Maryland had an easy time of it, but lost quarterback Josh Jackson in the process. What will that mean going forward? We'll tell you when we return on the Gridiron Review. Welcome back. Bill and I were both at Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium. In fact, the entire sports staff of the Capitol was on hand for Navy and Air Force. And
big game.
And there's a reason why. I mean, there's so many stories that end up getting written out of these games. And for this one, Bill, this was eerily similar to 2 years ago.
Sure
Wasn't quite as big a lead for Navy as they had 2 years ago. That saw Air Force rally back and take the lead. But Air Force rallied from 21-9 down, took the lead 25-21. Navy helped out with a fumble in their own territory. Falcons took it in. But Ken Niumatalolo set this all back up in January. They made a concerted effort to make Malcolm Perry a better passer. He has put in the work.
And it is paying dividends.
Paying major dividends. What a play by C.J. Williams after a holding penalty brought Navy back in terms of field position. Williams makes a tremendous catch. And then Perry, of course, throughout the game to Michael Cooper. Cooper had 3 great catches for 90 yards.
Yeah.
And you know, you're talking about when they're not going to pass the ball a lot, but 5 for 7 for 144 yards. If you're Malcolm Perry and you can do that weekly, that's a huge contribution to a Navy offense that needed it on Saturday because Air Force defends it as well as anybody. But late in the game, the Mids made a huge play. Perry scores from 3 yards to regain the lead, and then they scoop and score on the game's final play to make it a 34-25 final. But just, again, to watch the pageantry of that game and to see the brigade of midshipmen, all 4,400 strong, spill onto the field at the end of that game, just quite a scene in Annapolis.
Well, you and I get jaded, Pete. We've been doing this a long time, both of us. And so it's days like that when you step back and realize I am one fortunate person that my job is to cover this kind of incredible sporting event. And nothing better in Service Academy football. And that game, sellout crowd. Real electric atmosphere at Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium. And I got to give it to my man Pete, one of his classic calls at the end of that game. I heard him saying, it's bedlam here at Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium. He had a great call at the end on the
Air Force coaches were banging on the window when they took the lead like they were going to break it. So I wasn't going to retaliate. I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't going to retaliate. So I just made sure
they heard
that they heard it.
They heard the call.
Scoop and score, baby.
Without a doubt. And
if you follow me on Twitter at Pete Medhurst, you can find that call on my Twitter page. And it was just to look, and I tell this all the time, and I tweeted this after the game for both schools. They over the years, look, 16 years in a row, one of these two teams won the Commander-in-Chief's trophy. The winner of this game won the trophy eventually. And you know, when you think about these kids at Air Force, Navy, and at Army, they sign up to defend our country and get a great education, and they play Division I football on top of it. The fact that they give us such a high caliber amount of drama and theater, and as someone that gets to write about it, I mean, it's got to be tremendous, all the different stories that come out of the football game.
And we have to give a shout out to Brian Newberry's defense. 4 times they were in the red zone, Air Force, and the defense rose up and forced field goals. And really, when you look at that game, that's a lot of points that they kept off the board. Yeah. Air Force was going to eventually score some touchdowns. Air Force got a good offense. They held Air Force way below its season rushing average and way below its season
fullback game never got going for them. Berto never really got going at the fullback spot.
I thought it was a good game plan by Brian Newberry in his Service Academy debut.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Meanwhile, Maryland took on Rutgers, and for Rutgers, they had just fired Coach Chris Ash because they weren't even competitive. I mean, it was bad during the Chris Ash
That Michigan
era.
loss was embarrassing.
And I talk about it all the time. You can hire a coach off of a great program and a great program's coaching staff. That doesn't guarantee, though, you're going to get the same results. They hired a guy from Ohio State. He wasn't any good, because you know why? Because he doesn't have Dwayne Haskins or J.T. Barrett playing quarterback.
Totally
he doesn't
different
have
talent level.
Paris Campbell and Terry McLaurin at wide receiver. You know, doesn't have Ezekiel Elliott at running back. You know, like Ohio State did during those days. You know, you got to have the Jimmies and Joes. You got to go get them and get them in your program. And Maryland, an easy time, 48-7. But of course, now going forward, the concern is how long they'll be without Josh Jackson with a lower leg injury suffered in that contest. And you hate to see a guy get hurt when you win 48-7.
Well, and especially he got hurt on the second to last play of the first half, and you know some people were questioning Coach Mike Loxley. Why aren't you just take a knee and go into halftime, no worse for wear? But you can't. You play football that way. It's a physical sport. Guys can get hurt on any play. I mean, so you can't second guess the guy. It's just a shame that it happened in kind of a meaningless situation. But now I'm guessing Jackson's not going to play in the next game. But Terrell Piggy, is going to have to step up and get the job done. It was a great bounce-back win after the absolute embarrassment to Penn State. Maryland had to get some confidence back in going out and laying a big number on Rutgers. And, Jackson, before he got injured, played well because he was one of the guys that struggled mightily in the previous 2 losses against Temple and Penn State. So we'll see what happens moving forward for Maryland. I don't know that we have mentioned, but Maryland's punter, one of 2 that they do use, the lefty version, is Colton Spangler, who's the all-county punter from Chesapeake. So that's pretty cool. A true freshman from Chesapeake High School punting for Maryland.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Jackson with an 80-yard touchdown pass. Javon Leake had 3 touchdowns. Anthony McFarland 2 for the Terps in the contest. Now, the good news is they're playing Purdue coming up next, and Purdue, without quarterback Elijah Sindelar and without their big play, one of the best in the Big Ten, in Rondale Moore. So if both of those guys don't play next week,
catching them at a good time.
That helps Maryland. They catch them at a good time. Terps at 3-2, need 3 more wins to become bowl eligible this season. Coming up, we'll talk about the pros. The Redskins, they do fire a head coach finally. And the Ravens, they win in overtime against the Steelers, who were playing with, let's see, their 3rd quarterback. Yes, we'll tell you who Devlin Hodges is when we return on the Gridiron Review. Welcome back. Ravens with a big win over the Steelers. Steelers, look, give Mike Tomlin credit. He was down to his 3rd quarterback. My man Devlin Hodges out of Samford.
That's right.
Not like Fred Sanford, like Sanford and Son. Samford.
Right. So when I first read it in the paper, I thought it said
FCS.
I thought it said Stanford, and
right.
I'm like
SAMFORD.
Yes.
Now, Devlin Hodges one time threw for 475 yards against Florida State. So when broadcasters were talking about him as some neophyte quarterback who played in the FCS, obviously didn't do their homework on Devlin Hodges. I'll give you a tip. Google, okay? When a player comes to win a game, you can Google him in 3 minutes and get enough information on him.
Well, and they got 25 assistants who've been Googled for him.
I'm just telling you, that's what you can do, and you can get the information. But give the Ravens a lot of credit here. Times got tough late. In fact, the Steelers said, and it almost worked out for them. Steelers said, hey, we're going to put our defense on the field first.
It did work.
They did stop the Ravens. The problem was they get the pass to Schuster. It looks like it's going to put him up around midfield. Marlon Humphrey comes in and goes, boop,
great,
right on the ball, punches it out. Ravens get the ball, and of course, Justin Tucker. That ball was headed outside the upright, and just like the field goal he hit to tie the game, he hits this one, and then all of a sudden it just kicks back right with some English inside of the goalpost. And Mr. Royal Farms puts the Ravens in the win column this past week. Good win for Baltimore and Lamar Jackson.
Well, Justin Tucker is just, he is amazing. And he has got the nickname now, Mr. Automatic. Mm-hmm. He is absolutely automatic. He's a I was thinking about it, he's going to Hall of Fame, this guy. He is
one kicker in the Hall of Fame, Wags.
Well, Justin Tucker may well be the second because he is incredible. He really is.
Justin Tucker gets in the Hall of Fame before Mark Mosley. We'll have a fight.
I don't
Mark Mosley was once the MVP of the National Football League in 1982.
All right. Well,
he was MVP of the league. Mark Mosley belongs in the Hall of Fame before Justin Tucker. I'll vote for Tucker to get in, but Mark Mosley should be in before Tucker. You know what was the key to Mark Mosley, by the way? He was a straight-on kicker. He wore like 932 pairs of socks.
I know. I think more kickers deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. They're part of the game. If you're a really, really good kicker, you're one of the best at your position, you should be in the Hall of Fame. I believe Mosley and Tucker should go. But then you mentioned Marlon Humphrey on the punch out. That ball looked like it was heading out of bounds, and amazingly, when it came back, bouncing back.
A huge Raven bounce.
Right, a Raven player and a Steelers player were both trying to get it, and it went, and here comes Marlon Humphrey, the guy that punched it out.
Because if either one of those guys touches it while they're out of bounds, because their feet were out of bounds, ball's dead. It would have been Steelers' ball at that point.
Right. So no, that is a huge win. Lamar Jackson did not play well. He's
3 interceptions.
Yeah, he struggled, and the Steelers turned all those interceptions into points. Steelers are not what they once were. What are they now? 1-4.
Yep.
So
not good.
Got to win that. I mean, if the Ravens had lost that game, it'd been kind of embarrassing, really.
Hey,
they would ask a lot of questions. But
if Mike Tomlin needs a job next year, he can come to Washington.
Yeah.
Come on, coach.
He brings some. That's what they need.
I love Mike Tomlin.
They need a guy like Mike Tomlin.
I love John Harbaugh. I love Mike Tomlin. Those are guys that have won consistently. They let their people coach for the most part. You don't see a lot of staff upheaval for either one of them. And I think continuity means a whole lot. Neither one of those coaches panic. John Harbaugh never panics. He never panicked last year when people wanted to put his job on a silver platter.
Well, we're going to talk about this, but I hate to say it, Pete, I don't think a guy like Mike Tomlin would work for the Redskins, because he would look at what's above him, Mr. Bruce Allen, and the owner, Daniel Snyder. I don't think Mike Tomlin would work for the Redskins.
I'm hopeful. I just want to coach, okay? Jay Gruden out, fired by the Redskins. Bill Callahan's going to be the interim. Kevin O'Connell, who they think could be the next Sean McVay, will be the offensive coordinator and call the plays now for Washington. Question is, who's going to play quarterback? Because we've seen enough of Case, we've seen enough of Colt. Look, if Kevin O'Connell thinks he can revive Dwayne Haskins here and make something out of him, then let's go with the kid and see what he can do, because we're going to pick. We're picking first or second. It's either going to be us or the Dolphins. And guess what? They clash this week.
Yeah, the
Redskins
two of the worst.
Installed as a 3.5-point choice on the road in Miami.
You're kidding me.
I'm not kidding you, Bill.
Well, Jay Gruden.
The Dolphins have announced to the world, we want to lose.
Yeah.
We want to lose the game.
Jay Gruden knew this was coming, because he said in his post-game press conference, if the key works tomorrow, I'll be at work. Well, the key did not work, Pete.
That's always a good sign.
He was locked out.
That's always the critical sign. If your key card works, you know you're still employed.
Well, I know you're up at the crack of dawn, but I was up real early this morning, and I saw that news at like 5:30.
5, as a matter of fact, I do a show from 5 to 6 a.m. on Mondays, Washington Football Wake Up, and right at 5:55, it popped up, boom, John Kine from ESPN reported Jay Gruden had been fired by the Redskins. So, of course, that dominated all of the sports headlines this morning, all the talk shows. Stephen A. Smith, he reported this last week. He said if they lost this week, he was going to get fired, and he did.
Stephen A. was right.
I mean, they were competitive for a half yesterday. Patriots only led by 5 at halftime, but obviously Patriots class in the second half showed out. And obviously they pulled away. So we'll see.
What's really the biggest problem in Washington right now is the fact...
accountability.
Well, but also if you look at the real big picture in terms of doing business, you got a stadium full of the other team's fans.
Dude, it was like they were in Foxborough
They were
yesterday.
chanting Brady.
It was all blue shirts.
Both Bill Belichick and Tom Brady said it was amazing. It was like a home game.
I'm sure Bill had some friends from Annapolis that came over to the game, but not that many. My goodness, a lot of Patriots rooters out there. That'll do it for us. Our thanks to Mark's behind the scenes. By the way, I got to commend you. Khakis and a button-down shirt today, Wags.
Yeah, I'm trying to dress to impress people.
How about that? By the way, congratulations to Dave Cottle and the Chesapeake Bayhawks, who have Chris Fennell from Navy and Mark Goers, who's the director of ops at Navy, as part of their staff over there. Congratulations to them.
Major League Lacrosse
Championship. You're not going to meet many people that are dedicated to the sport of lacrosse like Dave Cottle is.
Right. Well, and another guy that you got to give a shout out to is the owner, Brendan Kelly, because he has sunk a lot, and I mean a lot, of his own money into making that the best franchise in Major League Lacrosse. And, he's done a terrific job. That's 6 championships overall, and 4 of them have come during Brendan Kelly's ownership, which started in 2010.
Yeah. If you invest, folks, you'll get the results. You got to do that in any form of business, whether it's sports or your everyday business. You have to invest to get the results. It's not just going to show up on your doorstep. That'll do it for us. For Bill, I'm Pete. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week on the Gridiron Review.